Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Brothers War draft here on the channel. Today, I'm going to be diving into a quick draft, which means there's no time limit on my picks, and I'll be able to dive deep on all of the new cards and explain what you should be thinking about during your Brothers War drafts. Before I dive in, though, huge shout out to Wizards of the Coast for giving me a free preview account in the early access event, letting me record this a couple days early. Let's dive in and see what we shall see. So because there's no time limit on my picks, I'm really going to go deep because everyone's learning the new cards. Everyone's trying to figure out what they should be thinking about during their drafts. And I'm going to be doing a lot of talking about that sort of thing. If you do want to get a more deep dive on that sort of thing, where I go through top commons, archetype level reviews, you can find my Brothers War draft guide already on my channel. So Hercule Master Wizard is a pretty strong rare if you can enable it. Really, you want to overload your deck with a certain type of card, like be that instants or sorceries or maybe non-creature artifacts, so that you're more likely to get an extra card out of Hercule every turn. It's much harder to try and spike getting 2 bonus cards a turn, and it's just much more powerful and consistent to generally just get an extra instant or an extra sorcery every single turn. So Hercule is going to be my hover for now. It's a really strong card if you get it early so you can build around it. After that, Urza Powerstone Prodigy is a really nice card as well. Looting in general is pretty strong, and the fact that it costs a generic mana to activate means you can use Power Stone tokens to pay for it, which makes it much closer to a free loot than it would be to a one you have to pay for every turn. So that's something to keep in mind. And also it can make you Power Stones, so that's something really relevant as well. There's a decent number of artifacts in the set, so Urza is quite a powerful card. I think not quite as good as Hercule, because Hercule can just start taking over the game on its own, and Urza is really just going to facilitate and set things up, but they're both quite good. Philaji Dragon Engine is also quite good. The prototype cards in general are very strong because they give you a lot of modality. They give you a late game threat, but also an early game card that you can play. And so if you do get to the late game, you have an 8 mana flyer you can play. But in the early turns, a 3 mana 1/3 that can start pumping itself isn't that embarrassing to play. So the Dragon Engine is a pretty reasonable card as well, though it isn't quite as good because it is hard to cast for 8 mana, and a 3 mana 1/3 with that ability isn't the best. Sardian Cliff Stomper is a 2-drop that really doesn't have a great home. Monocolored decks aren't super incentivized, so it's not really a card you'd want to take early. But if you have 10 or 11 mountains, it can actually be pretty scary. If you enable this early in the game, imagine you play this in a mono red deck. On turn 4, you're attacking for 4 damage with your creature. That's pretty scary. So definitely something to keep in mind, but it's not going to come up that often. Liquid Metal Coating, turning a card into an artifact, is a cutesy thing you can do in Constructed for some value, but it's not as good in Limited and not a card you should be playing in the prototype artifact slot or the retro artifact slot. Not a prototype. Retro artifact slot. There's going to be a retro artifact in every pack. Some of them are great in Limited. Some of them, like Liquid Metal Coating, aren't so great. Phalanx Vanguard, just a generic 2-drop, not a high priority. Tokasia's Onulet, definitely a mediocre 5-drop, not a card you need to prioritize. Warlord's Elite, a card that's too hard to enable for the early turns. Generally, you're going to have to pay full price for this. And by the time you're getting cheaper mana, it's not a huge deal. Mindstone's Animation, though, is a card that I do like because if you have Power Stone lying around, you basically get a 4 mana 4/4 trample, not trample, but a 4 mana 4/4 that replaces itself and has haste because the Power Stone was in play already. So that's a pretty good card. Overall, the best cards in this pack have been blue. Hercule, Urza, and Mightstones are the best 3 cards in the pack. Third Path Savant, just a medium filler. Thraxo Demon is a card that's decent in a sacrifice deck and mediocre outside of it, but definitely a card you can play just in any deck. You don't have to be a sacrifice deck to want it. And then Mishra's Onslaught, mediocre card, does generate some tokens and can help you if you're going wide. Sibling Rivalry, good with sacrifice effects like Thraxo Demon, though you do kind of want to have a cheaper sacrifice outlet to make this really good. And then Gaia's Gift as a reasonable combat trick, and Evolving Wilds as a nice fixer, but also a card that works well with some of the sacrifice cards in the set, cards that care about you sacrificing stuff. So in this pack, I would go Hercule first, followed by Urza, followed by Mightstone's Animation as my top 3 picks, and then after that, maybe I would go Evolving Wilds or Thraxo Demon. It really does get a lot worse after those 3. Let's take Hercule, though. Okay, so when you're playing in a draft, and you get past your first pack, it's really actually an important pack because it can set the tone if certain cards are taken. So here, a rare is missing because all we see are uncommons. Even though the prototypes can fill a rare slot, they're not going to replace the rare. So the rare would still be here. So we don't really get a signal from this. If a common was missing from the pack, sometimes you can get a signal there because there's going to be one common of each color. So the white, blue, black, red, green. So there's one common of each color. If there was no green common in the pack, we would know they had taken a green common. And sometimes you can be like, okay, well, what green common would they have taken from this pack? And so the second pick, even then, checking rarities is an important part of the process. And sometimes even checking the uncommons, because sometimes there'll be a strong common and only certain uncommons are stronger, but that's generally not as relevant. So the first pack, just check the rarities, make sure if a common's missing, there's at least a common of every color still. Journeyer's Knife. So basically a 2-drop that can start searching for lands, very slow, and in draft you can't really afford to be this slow. Cradle Clear Cutter is a pretty nice card. It ramps you, and it can also be a top end card as well. We are kind of looking for non-creatures to pair with Hurkle, preferably instance and instance, because enchantments is much harder to pull off. Non-creature artifacts much harder to pull off, but we could still just go any direction with that. We could just abandon it as well. Gaia's Courser is a really nice card with graveyard decks. I'm going to hover it for now because it is quite powerful to be able to potentially draw a card every turn attached to a 4/5, 4/5. Reconstruct the Thopter, not the best card, just a little bit undersized, even though it does have Unearth. Aeronaut Cavalry, decent if you have some soldiers as a top end card, but not a high priority. Deadly Riposte, just not premium removal, a card you'd rather not play because it's just too situational. Creatures don't always get tapped, and the creatures that do get tapped aren't always 3 toughness, so hard to use. Recommission, reasonable card, but not a high priority. Sometimes you'll be able to get some good value out of this. Mightstone's Animation again could be a decent follow-up to Hurkle, but we don't really have an artifact theme yet, and I think Gaia's Courser is just better. Retrieval Agent, Marginal Human, just really hard to get a lot of value out of this ability, just overcosted pretty much. Clay Revenant has some good synergy pieces. If we'd first picked Urza, this card's actually a good combo piece with Urza, though I wouldn't second pick it. Killzone Acrobat is a good sacrifice outlet for the sacrifice decks because you can sacrifice for free. So if you steal their creature, you can just sacrifice it immediately. Blast Runner, not a great card. It doesn't block very well, and oftentimes in limited, you want cards that can play both sides of the ball. Even if you are aggressive, it's kind of hard to turn this on, though if you go super aggro, maybe it can be useful. Pendragon Strongbow is a good card for a sacrifice deck, just cheap to activate and gets you a little bit of damage in and pumps itself. And then Shoot Down is actually a reasonable card to main deck in this format, so not a card I would shy away from taking early because there are a lot of artifacts, enchantments, and flyers. Here though, Gaia's Courser is my pick. After that, it's much closer. I'd probably take Mightstone's Animation just to stay blue for my Hurkle, and then after that maybe Cradle, Clear Cutter. So those are my top 3. So we have a little bit of Graveyard Synergy and a little bit of maybe you want instants and sorceries. Here, Mox Amber is not particularly playable, not a card I'm going to take. Though if you see one of these, I think it's probably going to be worth some money because Mox Amber or Retro Frame, good recipe. Battlefield Butcher, a card that cares about having cards in your graveyard. Nice little way to slowly ping your opponent out of the game. Definitely goes well with the Gaia's Courser and cards that I maybe would want in that deck. Gnawing Vermin. Target player mills 2 cards. You would target yourself if you're playing a graveyard deck. And then when it dies, if you sacrifice it or something, you can get a creature to shrink. Demolition Field, not a playable card in limited. There's just not enough non-basic lands, and it's not worth killing them anyway. Aeronaut Cavalry, we already talked about. Union of the Third Path, not a great card. It's sometimes playable, probably, if you have enough instants and sorcery synergies, but just generally a card you'd rather avoid. Just does kind of nothing. Combat Courier, on the other hand, does have some cool synergies. Good with self-mill stuff, because bringing it back and sacrificing it's pretty good. Not that expensive to do either. Good with artifact synergies, and just a little bit of a glue card. Coilous Rock, a bit expensive, but because you don't really need the Power Stones as much once you've gotten to that point in the game. But the Power Stones are still going to have a use a lot of the time, because some of the prototype cards, as we've seen, cost a lot of mana. Retrieval Agent we already talked about. Already talked about a few of these cards, and none of them are high priorities. And then Astronaut's Intervention is, it's like a mediocre combat trick. It's cheap to cast, but the fact that you then have to recast the creature makes it not a card I'm really a huge fan of. There's not a great blue card to follow up the Hurkle. Not really going to take the Coilous Rock here. Gaia's Courser, there's not a good green card to follow it up. Again, white, blue, black, red, green, so there's not a color missing. There's just a rare missing and a common. So far, none of the uncommons have been taken. So here, I think I'm probably just going to take the Battlefield Butcher. It goes well with the Gaia's Courser plan. I think better than the Gnawing Vermin, which is more of an enabler. You'd rather have a couple payoffs and then get some self-mill from other sources. Self-mill is not that hard to come by in this set. So we'll take the Butcher. Okay, so now, again, the rare is missing, and an uncommon is missing, and a common is missing. And you know that because you just know there's 3 uncommons, a 1 rare, and then the rest are common. So let's see. White, blue, black, red, green. So there's a white common missing from this pack. So that means that we're not seeing white even early on, which is very interesting. We don't have a white card, so that's not a huge deal for us, but could be a signal to avoid. Dreams of Steel and Oil is a reasonable card, but not a huge priority. It's sometimes nice once you know more about your opponent's deck to save it for trying to get rid of a key threat. Like if they have a 6-drop, you can play it right before they get to 6 mana to try and snipe it. Transmogrant Altar, really kind of a finicky card. Turn something into a 3/3. Not really a card I'm a huge fan of. Bone Saw, very low impact, not worth really playing most of the time. Air Marshal can be really good if you're playing a Soldier's deck, especially if you have a couple Power Stones lying around. Just fly through the air for a couple of attackers once you get to the late game, but not a high pick. Depth Charge Colossus, really kind of rough that this doesn't untap on its own, but it does give it functional vigilance, which is nice. So kind of a pro and a con, because by the time you get to that point in the game, you're often going to have some mana lying around if you want to attack with this, but not a high pick. Already talked about this as well. If you have some self-mill, this card gets a bit better. Scrapwork Rager is a really good common, though. It just is a 3-for-1 built into one card, and it works well with self-mill, so pretty happy to take that. And then build maybe, especially because it goes with my Battlefield Butcher. One thing that's worth noting is when you're in the draft, if you take a card that is the same color as one of your other cards, the later you took a card of that color, it's better. So like I first picked Hercule. There was no reason for me to think blue would be open. I just thought it was a powerful card. I second picked Gaia's Courser. Somebody had the option to take it and they didn't. They passed it to me. So that's a little bit of a signal point. And then third pick, again, 2 people had the option to take the Battlefield Butcher, and neither of them did. And so the fact that I've got a little bit of a stronger, like maybe black signal, and so taking the other black card maybe plays into my signals a bit better. So, and it's also the strongest card in the pack, in my opinion. Raise to the Ground, reasonable card, but only killing artifacts is not the best, though you can usually cycle it to kill one of their Power Stone tokens, which is valuable. And then Sentinel Stalwart, not a high value card, just doesn't do enough. Tamakel Honor Guard, fine 2-drop, but not a high pick. And then Mine Worker. If you can get these 3 together, there's the Mine Worker, the Power Plant Worker, and the Tower Worker. They're pretty powerful on there as a combination. I don't know if individually they're really great, though they can sometimes be played in a pinch. But with like the Scrapwork Rager. After this, I would probably take, honestly, maybe Dream of Salt and Steel and Oil. I kind of want to get more reps with this card. I don't know how good it is yet. And then Clay Revenant could go with my self-mill strategy. But this pack's kind of weak. We just know white has been taken a little bit. Okay, so first things first, check white, blue, black. So the black common got taken out of this pack. Sometimes the sets do some weird stuff where like a gold card would count. I'm pretty sure that they count these as black cards or whatever, like the artifacts, so this would count as a red card. Because that's where they were listed in the card image gallery. But yeah, so it looks like a black card got taken potentially. Kind of hard to tell sometimes. White, blue, maybe a green card as well. Maybe the collation isn't always the same. But generally that's how it works in almost every set. So I assume it's the same in this set. I didn't read anything different. When attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control. Not a great card, because generally you want to be attacking with all your creatures, and this doesn't buff you up defensively. Pirate Blast, you can sack a creature, kill something, and then draw a card. So that's reasonable. We don't really have huge inklings into red yet, but we could fill a graveyard. This card's good to sacrifice. We haven't seen any good green card to follow up the Gaia's Courser or any blue card to follow up the Hercule. Yotian Tactician is a good card if you're white-blue, but we haven't seen a reason to go into white-blue. Levitating Statue is a good follow-up to Hercule. They both reward you for casting non-creatures, but it's a little bit hard to use this sometimes because it doesn't do a lot unless you get it down early. Power Stone Engineer is a great 2-drop, though I don't really have a reason to be white at the moment. Machine Over Matter, fine bounce spell, but not a high priority. Conscripted Infantry, fine card for like a sacrifice deck. If I was to take a sacrifice card, I'd take the Pirate Blast. Juggernaut's a reasonable top-end card. Wings is reasonable if you're more aggressive. That's like 1 copy. Energy Refractor, it's fine if you have some Power Stone tokens lying around, because you can use the Energy Refractor as a way to filter your Power Stone token mana into mana for any type of card, but it's not a high priority. And then Supply Drop is like a reasonable card, but not a high pick. I think the best card is Pirate Blast, and we also see Conscripted Infantry, which goes in the same deck. I think that they're both better than the levitating statue, which I think will be hard to use. So we're going to take the blast. Okay, and we get rewarded immediately by seeing a bunch of red cards. So we just took Pyrrhic Blast, and now we see 1, 2, 3, 4 red cards and 1, 2, 3 blue cards. So that's pretty good. Fall of Krug isn't good, just too expensive for what it does. Jalum Tome is also like, you put yourself down a card by playing this, and then you're only looting, so you're not getting the card advantage back. Philology Archaeologist, pretty good with the Hercule plan, potentially. Like, we could go for a Hercule instance and sorcery stack, but this is the first blue card we've seen, so I'm less inclined to take it. Coilos Rock, again, we've already talked about it, mediocre. Scatter Rate can be good, but in the late game, they're going to have some Power Stones, maybe, and they can use Power Stone mana to pay for this, so that's my understanding, at least. But yeah, that makes sense, because you can use Power Stone to cast for anything but casting non-artifact spells, and so you can use it to pay for these. Warplow is pretty good. Unleash Shell is a card I like. And then the Ardent Guard. We did just take a red card, so I think following up with Unleash Shell makes sense to me. Other than that, I like Scatter Ray and Archaeologist. I'd probably take the Archaeologist, but I think Unleash Shell is a good follow-up. Bitter Reunion is not a card I'm a fan of, nor Mishra's Domination. They just don't do enough. Interesting. Ichor Wellspring is a cool card. If this is just creatures. It works well if you have some stuff that lets you sacrifice artifacts, because you can get some good value out of this. Play it, draw a card, sacrifice it, draw a card. Especially in black, there's some stuff that lets you sacrifice artifacts. Monastery Swiftfear is a more aggressive card. We don't really have an aggressive lean to our deck yet. I guess Unleash Shell's more aggressive. We don't really have the tools around this to build around it. I would much rather have Conscripted Infantry at this point, because it does work well with my Pyrrhic Blast. Ichor Wellspring is very tempting, though, just because I feel like I might be able to make it work and do some cool stuff. Stern Lesson goes well with Hercule. And then there's Perimeter Patrol, Hoarding Recluse. Boulder Branch Golem, honestly, a pretty solid green card, because it gains you a bunch of life, no matter which mode you cast it in. Hoarding Recluse, medium card. Other target card from a graveyard, yeah, just mediocre 4-drop, mediocre 3-drop. Power Plant Workers, medium. So just a lot of medium cards in this pack. I think taking another red card could give me more of a direction, which I kind of like. But I think Ichor Wellspring could also fit well into a red deck, because a lot of the sacrifice stuff will sacrifice artifacts, and this is a good card to sacrifice. It'll let you set up early. Maybe play Black-Red Sacrifice, because 2-drops are more premium than 3-drops generally. I don't know if the Wellsprings is good to use. I don't have a way to sacrifice artifacts yet. I think I'll just take the Conscripted Infantry and move on. There are a few good green cards in that pack, though. And another Conscripted Infantry. There's also Gnarlroot Pallbearer, which can do some good work. Curate goes well with Hercule. Calamity's Wake, not particularly playable. Just doesn't do anything. Vanguard is just mediocre. I think that the Archaeologist, the Curate's also kind of tempting, but we don't really have the type of spells deck that Curate would be good in. Takesha Dig Site is a big trap. It looks like it has a lot of utility in the late game, but the cost of a colorless land is pretty high. I'm just going to keep taking red cards that work well with sacrifice themes. Okay, we wield Urza Power Stone Prodigy. That's the sort of thing that happens in early days bot drafts sometimes, but Urza is a really good card. Also, Mightstone's Animation. So the top 3 cards I said I would take was Hercule, Urza's, and Mightstone Animation, and they all wield. That's pretty funny. Sibling Rivalry is also a good sacrifice card. I'll take the Urza, though. And Mightstone's Animation wield. There's also Strongbow. Also, all the cards I said I would take are wheeling. Pretty funny. But yeah, we'll take the Mightstone's Animation over the Strongbow, I guess. Strongbow does go well with the sacrifice stuff that I kind of wanted to assemble. I don't know if the colors I'm drafting are open. Black is not really open, I don't think, so maybe we'll end up in a blue-red deck. Mindstones actually works well with the Conscripted Infantry, though, because the 1/1 you make is an artifact. And we'll try to get some Power Stone stuff going. Sure, we'll take the Gnawing Vermin for a self-mill stuff. of course, Dreams of Steel and Oil Wheel because I was considering picking it. This stuff does happen in real drafts, though, especially early days. People don't know which cards are good, so I'm not like viewing this as like a non-real draft experience. Clay Revenant could also be fine, but I want to try the State Dreams. Sure, I'll try the Refractor, I guess. I can put Mightstone animation on it. Sure. Okay, new pack, Mishra's Command. They discard up to X cards, then they draw a card for each card discarded as fight. That's not great. X to target creature. X to target planeswalker. Target creature gets plus X plus O and haste. So this card's just kind of bad. It can kill a creature and let you loot or rummage. That's medium. Looks like we're playing red-blue at the moment. We didn't see a ton of green. We didn't see any white cards. So, and we didn't see a ton of black until the very end. So we're somewhere in the Grixis colors. But I don't think Mishra's Command is great. I guess it can kill any creature you really care about. And loot away a bunch of your cards you don't want. That's still pretty good. Cliff Stomper we already talked about, not a card we really want. Hero of the Dunes is pretty good, but we aren't playing white, so we're not really going to consider it. Millstone, not a great card, just too slow. This card's terrible, just really small and doesn't have a big enough impact. I think this card's also just understated for what you get. Gigamole is actually pretty cute in some of the self-mill strategies because it mills you 3 cards and then gets you a creature back, so it works well with like the Gaia's Courser plan, Battlefield Butcher stuff. Rager's excellent. Trench Stalker, kind of cutesy. There's a blue-black deck that cares about drawing multiple cards, and this is a pretty nice payoff at common. Really hard to race this. Nice card for aggressive decks because it gives you a late game mana sink and also just a fine early threat. And then we've already talked about these other cards. I think the main pick here is between the Scrapwork Rager and the Mishra's Command. It's fun to get some experience with the rares early on, and I think red was more open than black. Getting some experience with the rares is definitely fun. Whirling Strike as a combat trick. Pretty reasonable. Epic Confrontation is a great green common, but we're not going to play green. Boots is okay. Defabricate. Wow, counter just artifacts. That's kind of tough. It's a bit too narrow to be good. Killzone Acrobat is a reasonable card for a black-red sacrifice deck, which I'm kind of leaning towards. My blue cards, I like first picked, wheeled it on a whim, and then wheeled it on a whim. I don't know if they're prioritized correctly by other players. Sometimes you can think that with signals. Usually removal spells are good signals because everyone values removal, but random cards like Mightstone's animation aren't necessarily a good signal. We'll take, this card doesn't really do much. Archaeologist, Depth Charge, Whirling Strike. I think I'll just take Killzone Acrobat. It does some good stuff. Okay. So it's a 7-mana, 8/6 Menace that can crash in. That's pretty strong. Late on Arms is good if you're heavy white and pretty much unplayable outside that. It's just hard to, it's not unplayable, it's just hard to use. You need to have like 3 planes before you're killing stuff that's reasonable. And if you have like a weird draw where you only draw 1 planes, it just doesn't do anything. Self-Assembler's cute because it can get some of the Urza guys. Pendragon Strongbow is a good sacrifice guy. Could help facilitate my other cards. Seeing some good green. It's better not to switch colors in pack 2, because then you'll just get cut off in pack 3 again and hose yourself. I don't think this card's good, just because it's so expensive. I'd rather just take the Pendragon. Let's look at my curve. A lot of 3-drops. Maybe I don't need the Pendragon, just because I have a lot of 3-drops already, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I should have taken the Ichor Wellspring for that exact reason. Over that art infantry, that 1 pick. That's something you learn as you get more experience with the format. Also take this guy. I don't really want to do that though. Sure, I'll just take the Pendragon. We took the first Pyrrhic Blast, and this one's also pretty good for us. Lots of cards we've already seen, nothing really new to talk about here. The Pyrrhic Blast is just good for a sacrifice deck. And it works really well with the conscripted infantry. Heal 3, draw a card, get a 1/1 token out of it. And now we're seeing a lot of good green, which makes sense because it wasn't open pack 1, so it should be open pack 2. Sacrifice card. This card's a nice top end. I think I'll just take Disfigure for more removal. I don't really have a ton of that. 2-drops are really what I need here. We will take Overwhelming Remorse as a premium removal spell. Skyfisher Spider is pretty good too. Sack a creature. It goes well with the sacrifice theme, but we're too heavy red to consider playing this. This card would also be a fine card because we can sack it over and over. Doesn't work great with the Pirate Blast, but good with other stuff. But easy remorse here. Boom, we'll take this guy. Nice little payoff for our deck. Caress, a bit slow, but this card is valuable. This card's fine if you're like super aggressive, but usually you're not going to be aggressive enough to make this work. So best left on the bench most of the time. Firebomb is fine. Yeah, but easy Junkyard Genius. This card's really good, but we're not playing green. Or another non-token artifact is put into a graveyard, create a tap Power Stone. This could be a really interesting card. There's nothing else for us here because we're not playing white. This card's solid to good because there's a lot of artifacts. And then like mediocre cards, but we'll try this, at least take it. Because if we get some artifacts to sacrifice, then making Power Stones to fuel our sacrifice could be good. Sure, we'll take the Gigamole. Some Mill. The Onslaught. Whirling Strike or Supply Drop. You don't really need 3-drops, but Whirling Strike is a fine combat trick. We don't have any 2-drops, which is unfortunate. Locust. Guess let's just take this big guy. Raise to the ground could be fine, but again, we don't need 3-drops. I think I'll just take those guys. I don't really need the ability to give my stuff flying. Fade from History. Huh. Interesting rare. Not particularly great, I don't think. Hard to break the symmetry on this one. Battlefield Butcher. How many creatures do I have? 15, and none of them are 2-drops. That's funny. Audacity. That's pretty strong, I think. Though sometimes it won't go to the graveyard properly, and then you get hosed. If they like enchant your creature and kill it that way. Battery Bearer is a great card for blue-green. Elsewhere Flask. Decent artifact for sacrificing. Another Overwhelming Remorse. I love a Goring Warplow. Nice late game card, but also a good early drop. Maybe I'm just supposed to take that over the Remorse, but I feel like I just need Remorses. My deck isn't going to be fast enough to kill them quickly, so I'll need removal. This is a good card. Overall, Scrapbook Rager is great. And then we've already talked about these cards, but it's between the Remorse, the Rager, just a 2-drop, and the Butcher, but I'm just going to take the Remorse. My deck is going to be slow and steady. Mechanized Warfare. Deals 1 plus that. I have a decent amount of red, but not enough to make this worth playing. Draw 2 cards. I'm already a slow deck, so I don't think I can afford to play this. Heart is good for my deck because I need the mana, but still, I think I'd rather take the Scrapwork Rager because I don't need more 3-drops as we've established. And then this card's like mediocre. This card's mediocre. But Scrapwork Rager is a highlight there. Gosh, they just don't exist. Where are the 2-drops? So we're just going to make a little bit of trimming to our deck. Get rid of all the non-red-black cards. We have a lot of cards to choose from, but a lot of them are kind of bad, so they'll be easy cuts at the end. We don't need any more 3-drops, but this card is kind of cutesy. I do kind of like it. This card's unplayably bad. Never touch this card. This sacking an artifact to make 2 power stones is like not going to do anything for you. Take flight. It's good if you have some protection for it, like the white mana instant that can give hexproof and indestructible, but kind of risky on its own. This card's quite good. Self-assemble. We could have gotten 2 of them. Jeez. There's a 2-drop, but it's the wrong color. I guess I'll just take the Skull Flayer. I already have a Pendragon, and I don't think I want to play it. Okay, I'll take the Gnawing Vermin. Gives me some self-mill, and also it's a card I can sacrifice. And it's an early drop that can kind of trade with stuff. This card's pretty good if you're playing blue-black. Which we are not. It's a 2-drop. This is a card. Horned Stoneseeker. Ramp, you can sacrifice the artifact before this guy dies, and then you don't have to have a downside. Great 2-drop. It even has Menace. Corrupt. Also a pretty reasonable card if you're very heavy black, but that's not going to happen all that often. This card's great as well. Good value. This card would be good for my deck. As we've established, this card's great. All the good ones always come in packs. They're always together. Another 3-drop, but I like this one. Great removal spell. Can even hit your opponent. Unleash Shell's also great. Bitter Reunion could be okay in my deck because I just have so many 3-drops and not any 2-drops. This card's also maybe reasonable, but I'm just going to take the Bitter Reunion. Well, late Excavation Explosion. Just easily taking that. Nothing else is even close. Thrawn Vigil's hard to use. It's decent with that one card that can like get put from your graveyard to your hand, but other than that, we're just going to play amazing 3-drop tribal. Battlefield Butcher. I'm just going to take the Rune Chanter. I just need a 2-drop. Yep. And now I'll just take... I guess that. I'm not going to play it. Pendragon came back. Oh my goodness. However will I understand the world now? Ooh, Unleash Shell. Nice. Maybe I'll just play a Heavyweight Demolisher Control. Bone Saw. Okay. This is an interesting build. So I just like putting all the cards I could potentially play and then building from there. So here, I mean, this card's bad in my deck. So I can cut that immediately. Bitter Reunion's pretty bad as well. I think I can cut Whirling Strike as well, because I don't need combat tricks. I'm not beating them down. I'm just going to kill all their creatures at a certain point. Non-token artifact is put into a graveyard. Put into exile from the battlefield. Create a tap Power Stone token. So if I do these things, or sacrifice my artifacts, I can get more artifacts. Doesn't seem relevant. Heavyweight Demolisher. Just hit him. I don't think this card's good, though. I don't need the Firebomb. Probably don't need that card either. Let's just check my creature count. 14 creatures. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of that guy for sure. Gruesome Realization. Probably don't need Raise to the Ground, but I'll try it maybe. Don't need Killzone Acrobat. I don't have that much sacrifice stuff. Got a couple of these guys. I've got enough that it'll be good, but I don't need the other guy. Like, I got the Pirate Blast as well. I have a decent number of things. I'm going to cut the Bitter Reunions. They're just kind of bad. I didn't get a lot of the cards I'd like the 2-drop that whenever I sacrifice something, I draw. I mean, it grows. And cut the discard effect. Gonna cut the Butcher. I don't have that many creatures. Gigamole seems decent. If I fill my graveyard, what do I get for it? I can bring back those guys. That's it. Yeah, I'm not going to play the Gigamole. Gonna cut the raise to the ground too, maybe. This is an interesting build. I kind of want to try just playing these two clunkers at the top end. Just absolute massive menace guys. Just hit like trucks. And figure out what to do with everything else. I can even sacrifice them to do massive damage. Yeah, I'm going to try them. Then I'll cut a raise to the ground. And a... Pendragon Strongbow. And we'll call it a build. Call it a day, as they say. We'll try it out. Get some reps in with our crazy stuff. And I will just make that the feature image for the deck. And I will see you folks in the games. Before I get to the games, I want to give a huge shout out to all of the patrons who support my content. If you've been enjoying my videos and would like to help me make more of them, you too can become a patron at patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. There's a ton of different tiers, so it's completely flexible. It's up to you how much you want to contribute towards my channel, but all patrons will gain access to my Brothers War tier list, where I grade every card in the set on an A through F scale to help you crush your drafts. Without further ado though, let's get to the matches. Welcome to round number 1. We have a good hand here. We got our Disfigure to keep us in it early. We'll get to try Mishra's Command. Getting down our Energy Refractor early. Let's go. The value. If they have counter spells, I really don't care. I don't know what they're up to. Okay. Charge of the Light Brigade, as they say. That wasn't my best attack ever, I'll be honest. I don't really care if my guys trade, though. I'm kind of playing a control deck, so this thing still answers this thing just fine. If I start to flood, I can use this. This is actually kind of ideal. Essentially traded my 3-drop for their 4-drop. I feel like I blundered in making that attack, and then they blundered back by making that attack. One, two, three, and then I don't care about this disfigure, so I'm going to get rid of that one too. That's pretty good. Discarded 3 lands and a spell, drew 3 lands and a spell, so all is right with the world. Gosh darn it. I have to kill this, because it'll make all of my excavation explosions worse, too. Dang it. And I want to keep hitting them, because I want to burn them out eventually. There we go. Get him. I should have played a land first before I played this so I didn't get blown out by the counterspell. But the counterspell can't counter instants and sorceries, so that's fine. I'm ready for my massive creatures. I have the mana. I'm ready. I have no idea what they're doing. Oh, they just want to draw a card, I guess. I will block if you attack me with your 1/1 opponent. Never fear on that front. I have a decent amount of burn right now. Okay, I will have to kill that. Oh, that's bad. Dang it. I'm close to killing them. +1, -1. It deals 1 damage. And then this can sacrifice my creature to zap them. So I think I can kill them if they tap out for this thing next turn. Which is actually crazy to think about. Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that does 4 to them, they go to 8. And this thing will be a 6/6. So let's just think. I can pump this 4 times. So this will become a 6/7. And then I sacrifice, and they've taken 4 from it, and then I sacrifice it to this to deal them 6. I should have milled myself for 2 first with this. I think this is the best chance of winning. I have a decent amount of burn in my deck. Yeah, I have these things in my deck. I was thinking Unleash Power, the Menace guy, another Excavation thing if I have any of those. Man, that was a fun turn. Are you kidding me? That's so bad. That's so bad. Are you kidding me? They happen to have a rare that gives their guy lifelink? That's stupid. I can't believe it. I was so set to win. And then they just have, like, some absurd rare. Well, that's how it goes sometimes. No justice in the world, as they say. I gave it my best shot. I wasn't going to beat that card if they played it and started gaining 6 life a turn. So close to having them. Yep, that's what happens when they draw 7 lands, I draw 11, and they have an insane rare that gives their guy lifelink. Gosh darn it. And the other funny thing is that not only did I draw 11 lands, but I also discarded. I discarded 3 lands here. So that's 11, 14, 15 lands. That's crazy. Oh my gosh, and none of my big guys. Oh man, I'm sad. I think I should have won this game if I'd gotten moderately more fortunate. Oh well, see you next round. Welcome to another round. We'll keep this. We've got our Vermin and our Chanter. Oh, I'm still sad about that last game. Man, this bear is sitting right in the middle of the battlefield. Much farther than I would have anticipated. No, this would have been a good card early. They both would have been good. Ah, the gurgling anointer. That thing does have to die. Okay, I take it back. Mishra's command is insane. I think one Penregan Strongbow is a good sweet spot. No. No, my heavyweight demolisher is not going to get to come back. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it is. Nice. Oh no, it won't, because they'll bring that guy back. Oh, sad day. I could have protected my guy if I'd remembered that this card had Unearth. I forgot. Oh, that would have been way better. I'm so silly. No. Yeah, they're taking the heavyweight demolisher. I don't know what they're doing. They're trolling. They have to be trolling. What are they? What? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is happening? What are they doing? Yeah, man. I'm bringing back my 8-6. The one that was there in the graveyard last turn. What? Normally I try to give my opponents the benefit of the doubt, but that one's like sitting right here. It's like... You're kidding me. Oh my gosh. And now I'm gonna lose. Oh, let's go. Get out of here. I could have done 2 extra damage by sacking this, but I wanted to leave it so I have the option for Menace and Haste on my next creature. Sure. Haste could still win me this. Okay. I'm gonna be so sad if I lose this game after they literally let me clobber them with my 8-6. Like, I'm just gonna lose by, like, them randomly gaining a bunch of life again. No. No. I need this. Oh no. I needed to destroy any creature. And I have them. Oh no, they're thinking. They have options. Oh, come on, deck. Oh, it's a Gurgling Anointer. Any creature and I win. I can play the creature, give it Menace. You kidding me? No. Oh my god. This is so sad. I can literally play anything. And I'm gonna lose. Oh. No, don't kill it now. Don't kill him, please. Oh my gosh. You're killing my guy. Now I'm gonna draw a creature that... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. I have to play it or I just can doom myself. But I could have won if I'd drawn this last turn and now I lose. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If I draw that literally the turn before, I win. I give it haste, I give it menace, I give it +1/+0. But as it stands, they draw their Power Stone Fracture the turn before. Oh my gosh. Oh. Once again, I drew 13 lands. They drew 8. Oh my god. Oh, that's so painful. That's so sad. Well, see you next round. Welcome to another round. Just a classic hand here. I think I'm gonna keep this on the play. I got this guy. I'm against the Ham TV. He's been playing Draft long enough today to get into Platinum on his preview account. That is actually insane. He's like the best drafter in the world, or something. Like he's like insane. Please say he's stumbling on mana. Nope, he's just sequencing properly as one should. Oh my gosh. I'm so dead. I'm gonna go 0-3 with this deck by 1 life point in 2 separate games, pretty much. Because I flooded out twice, and now I play against him with his probably insane mono white deck or something. Sad day. Oh my gosh. Maybe I can do this. I can do it. Yep. Save some damage. I don't want to risk him having protection. Gotta kill that. And I'll be able to play my heavyweight demolisher. I'm gonna take a bit of a hit this turn. For 3. That's bad. I'm only going to give him 1 activation. I'm going to get owned if he just keeps activating. I can almost play this and activate this guy, which would be really sweet. But I can. 6, 8. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom. It's clobbering time. Oh, man. Imagine if I found one of my cards that lets me sacrifice a creature. Imagine. How satisfying would it be if I found a card that let me sacrifice? I have 2 copies in my deck. Let's go, please. 1 time. Sad day. Never lucky. This already has Menace, so... They have to double block. I'm in so much trouble. I have some decent outs here. I have the Penregan guy. I've got a bunch of stuff that does damage to the face. Just never can catch a break in my entire existence. It's so sad. I'm losing by 1 life every single game, and every single game my opponent draws 6 mana and stops, and I draw like 1,000,000,000 mana. Oh my gosh, that's so frustrating. Oh my goodness. If I'd drawn like, I have like 10 outs in my deck. Let's just see. So this would have been, I have one more of these, one more of these. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to count up how many outs I had because I'm so sad. I lost every game by like an inch. And the deck was good. Like, I have a lot of good cards in this deck. Let's just count up the outs that I had there. 1 out. 2 outs. 3 outs. 4 outs. 5 outs. 6 outs. 6 outs. And then I had a bunch of cards that I could have drawn to keep me alive, I think. Like a removal spell or something. I had 6 outs and about 18 cards for a couple of turns, and I drew 2 lands, I think. That's so frustrating. Very frustrating. And this was a redraw. Or yeah, because I hadn't played it yet. Oh my gosh. This would have killed him too. One, two, three, four. Or was this already dead? No, I don't think it was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's so frustrating. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, that's very, very frustrating. I was so close so much of the time there. And I lost every game by 1 life point, and I don't think I could have really squeezed in those life points anywhere else. Like, I could have gotten extra damage in with this. No, I couldn't because this thing was dead. I had to chump block with it by that time. Oh my gosh. That's so frustrating. Every loss. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, in the comment section down below, leave hashtag #GameOfInches. So let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Remember to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. Give me a little bit of a boost in morale after all those. Comment below with your questions, thoughts, and feedback. Try not to get too negative about the game as a whole. I'll recover, I swear. And subscribe for more draft content. Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit sad about this one. But yeah, if you would like to find my tier list for Brothers War, you can find that on my Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. If you found my in-depth analysis helpful and want my thoughts on all the cards, then Patreon's the place to go. It helps me continue to make videos, and you gain access to some cool rewards. All patrons gain access to my tier list. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. I hope... Oh, also, one last thing. Let's shout out again Wizards of the Coast for a free preview account for the early access event. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Despite the losses, it was still fun, and we got to clobber some people with heavyweight demolishers, so that's fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.